My first question is for you, Ms. Wheeler. There are a number of entities, including private companies and federal agencies and task forces that have reviewed cyber incidents. They've published their findings really for the last several years, so this is nothing new. But what value can the Cybersecurity Review Board add to these reviews that we've already seen, and goes above and beyond the contributions that we have seen from these entities?
I think in my industry and field that the kinds of incident reports that are published by corporations may have deep knowledge of the incidents themselves, especially if the software that they produce is what was part of the incident. I think the challenge there often comes with the fact that right now, I believe more than half of all of the internet citations for every Supreme Court case have already disappeared from the web. Corporate resources disappear on a corporate timeline and on those corporate incentives as opposed to what's in the good of the public. When it comes to those investigations, we need an ongoing and repeatable process to ensure that our history isn't lost. I see the CSRB as an opportunity for us to create a shared history and narrative of what happened in previous cyber incidents.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, your organization, ITI, represents many tech companies, including many that conduct their own cybersecurity reviews on a regular basis. For example, companies like Apple, Google, and Microsoft produce cybersecurity papers and reports on a very frequent basis. Question for you is, what do ITI member companies think of the board's first two completed reviews? And what are the key changes that they would like to see in the future? Or what do they, not just changes, what do they want to celebrate as well?
Thank you for the question. I mean, when we discuss the results of the first two reviews with our members, and we look forward and discuss what we'd really like to see going forward, I mean, there really are a couple of things that many of the discussions that we had focused on. One was the selection of the incidents themselves. I mean, I think while investigating Log4j seems to be kind of an obvious type of widespread, significant cyber incident worthy of a really in-depth, focused review. I think there were more questions that folks had with respect to the investigation focus of the second report, it was more into a threat actor group, Lapsus, and then if you read the report, it actually kind of strayed into talking about other similar acts and things like that. And it's not that that report itself may not have proved valuable and offered some valuable recommendations. The question is, as you mentioned, it really seemed to be reiterating a lot of recommendations that others had already made and others had focused on. So I think our members really would like to see clear, transparent incident selection criteria going forward. I think the second thing that really we had a lot of discussion about and members don't necessarily agree on is the constitution of the board. I mean, I think all the witnesses here today had different ideas about who should be on the board, who should not be on the board. The one thing that I think is clear, that if there is private sector participation in the board, and I represent private sector companies, we think that certainly private sector companies have a lot to add to this discussion. There really should be clear membership selection processes, and there should really be a very clear process for recusal and making sure that we don't have either real or perceived conflicts of interest or business advantage. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harrow, the CSRB has thus far published two reports, the first on Log4j vulnerability and the second on Lapsus hacking group. The board, as I mentioned in my opening comments as well, is working on a third review focused on cloud computing security. My question for you is, in your opinion, should the CSRB be focused on specific incidents like the NTSB, or are other topics like vulnerabilities or threat actors also helpful for the board to consider?
I appreciate the question, Mr. Chairman. I think in my view, the focus on incidents allows for the board's critical function, which is to identify root cause failure, to exist in its most fulsome and most beneficial form. If the board is investigating trends or broader phenomena, there's a number of other bodies that can do that, in some ways more effectively, or at the very least in a way that's duplicative. So I think the board's focus on specific incidents, the complexity associated with those incidents, is its principal value.
A couple follow-up and ending questions here as we wrap up the hearing. Ms. Wheeler, what should the CSRB do to better help our small to medium-sized businesses? Those are clearly businesses that are oftentimes the most vulnerable, don't have the resources to protect themselves. What could the CSRB do to help them?
That's a wonderful question, Senator. Thank you. The small and medium businesses in the United States are far behind the expectations on big tech companies. And not here as a representative of big tech, of course. I'm here as a representative of somewhat littler tech. And the answer, I think, is that the recommendations and the processes that the CSRB puts out, they need to be a little more timeless. The incidents that are being investigated are important, but they're leading to simple bromides that small businesses can look at and use, but they don't know how to prioritize them. They don't know how to build them into their systems, how to build security in by design from the very beginning. And so the use of the CSRB to the smallest half of American business is in giving information to them that is useful, actionable, and that leads to a method easily of protecting themselves in future. We've not seen that happen yet, and I would very much appreciate it if we could move in that direction. Thanks, Senator.
Very good. Mr. Miller, a couple final questions. From your member company's perspective, just how urgent is the need for the CSRB to perform effectively in your mind?
I think, I mean, look, it's urgent that we get cybersecurity right, for sure. And the CSRB can be an important part of the equation to get cybersecurity right in this country. I mean, I think the CSRB is important. You know, I do think that it needs a little bit of work on the governance side, as I've mentioned. But you know, our members are supportive of the CSRB concept, in investigating incidents in particular.
Very good. And a final question, doing some questioning from Senator Hawley, was about AI. And AI is obviously an important conversation. This committee has been significantly engaged in AI, and we've already passed a number of bipartisan pieces of legislation signed into law, continuing to work on a variety of areas. And I think you were in the process of answering a question. I want to give you an opportunity to do that, which is, how is the industry attempting to manage the risk of AI technology as it is being developed? And we'll wrap up with that one.
Thank you for the question and the opportunity. You know, I mean, this is a cybersecurity hearing, but, you know, in the cybersecurity context, we've often been talking and for long been talking about risk management. Risk management is also really critical in the context of AI policy. I mean, you know, as the questions indicated, there is good and there is potential harm that comes from AI policy. And ITI, we are working with our members and experts at the companies and learning every day how to answer these challenging questions. You know, happy to take a look at Senator Hawley's new bill that he was referring to, and continue to work with staff on codifying solutions and risk management-based solutions to AI and other issues.